Good evening, everyone. This is July 23rd, Select Board meeting. Welcome. This meeting is being broadcast live as well as being taped, and we'll begin with the national anthem.
We will?
No, Pledge of Allegiance.
I'm willing to sing, but
That was so funny. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was so funny. We were just talking about the Red Sox, and I think I got it in my head about the national anthem.
Well, either that or is it still a little bit of heat stroke from Saturday's community service project?
Yes. Yes. Speaking of community service project, I'd like to start with something of gratitude. If anybody has anything in particular to say, then I do, if nobody does. And so I invite you in future meetings. I just want to say thank you to the people that came out on Saturday morning on a very, very hot day to do trail maintenance on the Manhan Meadows Sanctuary, including Ed Gibson. Thank you for being there. We started at 7 o'clock in the morning, and most of us were done by 9 or 10 in the morning before it got too hot, and we got half the trail done. The second half we're going to work on in the Saturday in September. It'll be September 21st, I believe, that Saturday, and some scouts are going to help and some Hampshire Regional students, so I invite everybody to join us, and I'll be giving you some more information about that. I also just want to say thank you to the department heads in town. I had sent out a request for feedback on Ed Gibson's evaluation, and I got almost 100% of the folks wrote back with very thoughtful feedback. So again, that we'll be talking about this in the next couple of weeks, but I just want to say thank you to the department heads. So appointments, we have one, Joe Bianca, reappointment to the Zoning Board of Appeals, term to expire June 30th, 2002. That was in the paperwork, in the packet. Did everybody get a chance to look at that?
This one's a reappointment, so
Yep.
there would not have been anything in the packet.
Okay, all right, so there was no paperwork. Anybody would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we reappoint Mr. Bianca.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There are no hearings, reports. Who would like to start with any select board reports?
Nothing from my end.
I have nothing.
Nothing since last week.
Okay, then, other than the maintenance of the trails, there was an open space review committee meeting, and Jen Day, our treasurer, came, and we discussed having a fund in town for gifts that anyone would like to make for either land purchases or maintenance of the trails. Just so you know, we have a number of donations were made to Kestrel on behalf of Southampton. And so right now we're having meetings to look at, what are the advantages and disadvantages of having a town gift fund versus somebody like Kestrel or Community Foundation establishing a fund on our behalf versus a private 501c3 organization. So anyway, that's, we got information from Jennifer Day, our treasurer. And we continue to do priority mapping in conjunction with the Conservation Commission and MPI. Also, Board of Health met last Tuesday. I wasn't able to go. I believe they discussed a number of policies, and Council of Aging did not meet in July, and they're meeting in August. But they continue to do grants around falls prevention and outreach to seniors that can't get out in Southampton, and also they're working on pickleball for Conant Park. And town administrator report.
And since you just said pickleball, email went out today that they did paint 3 of the 4 courts that they intended to on Friday, so that is moving along. So you just
I think there's only 2 tennis courts at Conant.
yeah, but they can actually go the other way.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. Great.
Just to remind, the town clerk's office is closed this week of July 23rd as the town clerk is on vacation. I have contacted Maxwell McFadden, the Boy Scout from Southampton Troop 210, who was working on that Eagle Scout project and is planning on organizing and conducting a 5K run and a 1-mile walk to cause awareness and support for the Southampton Community Cupboard, and let them know that it would be all right to use the town hall parking lot on Saturday, August 17th from 9 a.m. to noon if it was needed for the run and the walk. We have received a letter from Mass DOT that our Chapter 90 funding for fiscal year 2020 has been approved and signed. Bless you. While the letter does not give the specific amount of our allocation, it has been approximately $300,000 to a little bit above that for the past several years. We have received the conservation restriction for the Pomeroy Meadow Road parcel back with the required state signature. I will arrange to have this conservation restriction recorded at the Registry of Deeds, and once that is done, I will send the copies back to the state to complete the water supply protection grant reimbursement package, which they already have. I am waiting for our copy of the Glendale Road conservation restriction with the required state signature to be sent back to us so I can do the same with that CR. This is the one the board had to re-sign the correct page for at their meeting last week. I have received the form from the State Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development to be filled out, which will lead to receiving a contract for our Mass Works grant extension for the East Street Bridge. John Furman of VHB and Randall Kemp will help me fill out the project information on the form so it can be sent back. I would like to ask the Select Board to approve me as the authorized signatory on the forms, and would like to request the Select Board to authorize Randall Kemp to be listed as the municipal project contact for grant administration and project updates. I will be in Westhampton tomorrow morning to take part in the 5-town collaborative for record scanning and storage, as the group will be interviewing and hiring someone to assist the 5 municipalities with the training of staff and scanning of records. The position will be paid through the grant which was received, and this is the project we're doing that Northampton is hosting for us.
Oh, right.
Old business, I'll be setting up an appointment for Robert Kozub, Historical Commission, and myself to meet with William Devlin, AIA Architect, and Chief Illingsworth, tentatively for mid-August to develop the scope of work for the Old Town Hall, 8 East Street envelope study for the building's preservation. And then lastly, upcoming Select Board meetings, August 6th and 20th.
Ask a question here. On the scanning project, Ed, once the person is hired, are we going to scan all of our records into a cloud somewhere, or how are we going to have the storage for this?
The storage is actually in Northampton. It's
There's a server there?
it's with their server system.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are we going to start that? And
We've been doing it. Now, I will say that the most consistent department has been the building department. Art Lawrence has done a wonderful job over there. I think he's scanned already half their old records. But the idea here is to and my memory from what was left in the grant is I think this allocates, I think it's 150 hours for each community over the next year for them to come in and train other staff members to be able to do it and to scan some documents themselves.
it's been a while since my kids were at Hampshire Regional, but do they still have the, what is it, the, not the need, but mandated that they have to get X amount of community hours in? I was just thinking, could we
Yeah, they
get
do.
some of those folks down here and have them scan?
Well, it's not, the scanning's the easy part. It's actually setting up the files, which we have a template for, and making sure that they go into the right files, because they're being done in character recognition so they can be searched, in the future, so.
I did that on my files. It just takes forever.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
It'd be nice if we can get that up there. But that sounds good, thanks.
But it's something that, if we can get a system going, get the template set up of where we want to go, that it might be possible to, tap into that community
Yeah, we
service
use
project and
students for my
have someone come in and say,
Yeah.
okay, this is the stack that has to be done. They're all getting scanned into this file, and this is how you name them.
Was this a compact grant that Northampton received? I'm just curious, because it's been a while,
Well,
actually.
it started before I came, and
Okay.
I can't remember if it was a compact grant or if it was another
Okay.
type of
I'm just
grant, to be
curious.
honest with you.
Any other questions about the town report? Would someone like to make a motion to assign Ed as the authorized signature for the forms and Randall as the municipal project contact for grant administration and project updates?
I'm fine with making that motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, old business. Do we have budget and expenditures review?
Not that I'm aware of. I haven't
Okay.
seen an update.
So once sort of the books are closed, then we'd get a final,
I imagine it's even before the
okay,
books will be closed that we'll see one.
okay. Any other further updates? You gave one on the East Street Bridge. Anything else on any of those, the Glendale Road or Palmer Meadow Road
I kind of incorporated it into my own
report?
town administrator's report also, but I wanted to report back on those two conservation restrictions because they're actually the last pieces of the requirements of the reimbursement package.
And didn't you say that we did get notification on the East Street grant?
I've received the actual paperwork from the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development to fill out and send back to them, which leads to us actually receiving the contract for that extension. So it was actually good to hear from the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development rather than my contact in the governor's office, and actually to get something physically from them.
Yes, that was good news. Any other questions on any of those topics that are somewhat ongoing until we get the reimbursement? No? Then we'll move on to new business, declaration of Fire Department 1984 Chevy 4x4 brush truck and 1986 Chevy 4x4 utility truck as surplus property for disposal.
And there are two vehicles on here with the procurement and acquisition of the new fire department administrative vehicle. It is freeing up two other vehicles. One we had received as a donation from DCR, and that's the 1984 Chevrolet 4x4, and that will have to go back to them. So that's one of the first vehicle under number 2. Under number 3, this will also free up the old utility truck, which is a 1986 Chevrolet 4x4. And with this, my recommendation is once it has been declared as surplus property, that we take this and along with some other items that are available and place it on the online auction block. There are two companies that I am familiar with that do municipal online auctions. One's Municibid and the other's Gov Deals. I used Gov Deals when I was in Beckett, but Municibid is another company that is used widely around here. So
We use Municipid, and we probably sell a couple hundred items a year on it.
Yeah.
So either one.
yeah. But it would be, we've got some other vehicles that have been sitting around and we'll probably try doing. And actually, I was talking with Art Lawrence today, and I know, Rini, that you had received that email, and I was going to take a long shot at trying to put some of that old electronics out there and trying to sell it on the auction block first before we actually had to pay for its disposal. I've just been waiting for the opportunity to actually have a few different items in that block rather than just that in itself.
Yeah, he was referring to a fairly large number of computer equipment that's not being used right now to see if we can get some money for it, because somebody came by that actually does environmentally friendly disposing of computer equipment. So the idea is to try to put it out for bid first and see if there's any funds we can get from it. But you had also said a few other items. Were you referring to vehicles?
Yes, my understanding, there's still a couple of, I believe they're old police vehicles, and there might be, I can't remember if there's an old fire vehicle that's sitting behind the highway garage also. And originally, when we had gotten the authorization to procure a new SUV cruiser for the police department, I figured that would probably go out to auction. That might be delayed a while. As you know, we had the one officer that was injured in a vehicular crash, and that particular cruiser was totaled. So we may have to keep the one that we originally intended in line for another 6 or 9 months. We will have some funding from the insurance company from that being totaled, but it will not be enough to buy a new one. So we'll also have to look at appropriating some further funds to doing that. And my guess is that once that comes around, is funded and procured through contract, that then that vehicle will be eligible to go on the online auctions. But once we set up the account, you don't have to do this once a year or twice a year. You know, you can do it 3 or 4 times a year when stuff comes up, so it's not sitting around. It's a fairly simple process to utilize.
Yeah, I know at our place, we used to do, like you said, quarterly. We'd have 100 vehicles to get rid of. We use Municipal, and I think the other one's just as good. There's no fee, and one comes up, you automatically post it. Just post them ongoing, and they just turn over. And we've sold, the highest amount we've sold is one item is $150,000, and we've gone down to like $20. So
really? Wow.
you put everything, junk vehicles you think nobody would buy. Some scrapyard's going to give you $500 for it. It's ridiculous. But
Oh,
yeah, so it's a great system, and
yeah.
if you've never gone on those, go ahead and look at them. They're pretty interesting.
Yeah, I bet they are.
Yeah, and my understanding of the main difference between the two is, as a municipality, you don't pay anything. So if someone bids $5,000 for the item you've got out there, and that's what it sells for, the municipality gets $5,000. You're not paying a percentage to the auction company. The cost of actually holding the auction is put on the bidder. It's added to their bid price.
8% on Municipal, I think.
Yeah, and I believe that from the last time I talked to somebody, I believe Municipal might be 1 or 2% below the buyer's premium on gov deals, but I'll take a look at that.
With our list of things to get rid of, have we also gotten rid of the plow truck sander already, or is that on the list too?
We would have to wait until that's actually procured. And that's one where, like cruisers and administrative vehicles, like for the fire chief, they have to be outfitted, but it might only take 6 to 8 weeks from the time you order it. The dump trucks, because of the bodies that are, you basically buy a vehicle and you have another company actually outfit the dump body on it or whatever. They can take 6 months to actually build and be ready.
So if I'm understanding, we wouldn't get rid of this one, even though it's non-functional, until the new one is...
Right, exactly.
And all the money that we would get would go into the general fund?
It will go to the general fund, that is correct.
Okay. So I think we need a motion then to declare these surplus.
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Each one of you,
Okay.
please.
Anywhere.
The next item, John, you were not here for this discussion, so whether we want to wait until there's a full board or if you wanted to chime in at all, but after we had the presentation by both the fiber optic company, the municipal light, and also the sewer, the limited sewer, it was, and a couple people had made suggestions that maybe the select board develop priorities for the year, and my experience is when you put a microscope on something, that's when you move the needle. So a lot of, people chimed in on, senior housing, emergency planning, economic development, and I didn't know if you wanted to discuss this or put your 2 cents in, or if you wanted to wait until we reconvened closer to the September meeting.
I can do both.
I'm curious to hear what you
I
would
mean,
say.
I've written some down before. I mean,
Mhm.
one of them is the perennial safety complex. I mean, we've
Yeah.
got to put an end to that.
Mhm.
And the end's got to be, we're going to have to build it. I mean, we can't not build it.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of getting it there. This is more operational, but I think we should revisit and settle the short-term, long-term disability issue that we have,
Mhm.
because I think that is a money saver for the town, but also cost avoidance, and it gives the employees a good benefit to have.
Mhm.
I think we started looking into it once or twice, and it just didn't go anywhere.
Mhm.
Head down the Greenway, I think we need to finish that. Again, it's a perennial favorite here that,
Mhm.
and the Hampshire Regional Review of the regional docks, we put that on, and I'm not seeing it, I don't think, here.
Should be
Is it?
under, we've
Oh, yeah,
moved it for
yeah,
for the
I see
summer
it.
into pending items.
Yep, I see it there, thanks, Ed.
Is that a priority of ours, or is that up to the school committee to do? I mean, I'm definitely a proponent of revisiting that and
Well, the
and
reason-
renegotiating it, given how old it is, but
Yeah,
I
sorry.
don't know if that's under our,
Well, it's under our purview because we entered into it. I mean, to me, reading a lot of the information is, it was maybe a good agreement then, but hindsight, looking at it, it's not a good agreement for us now because we have very little control over what goes on. So I think looking at it and can we renegotiate? Can we change it? Can we add the other schools to it? But right now, we're just, I guess I'll say we're complaining about the fact that we don't have any control. So
Mhm.
let's look into it and see if we can get some control of the situation.
Mhm.
So that's why I think we need to do that.
Who's the current liaison to Hampshire Regional?
that is Francine.
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 Yeah. And again, these are smaller things, but I had the ECAT equipment. Again, it's something
Mhm.
that's been going on a while.
Mm-hmm.
When's that getting upgraded now that our line is good? Or is
Last
our
year.
line not good?
Now that we determined that the problem with this charter, not ECAT?
But this
Yeah.
this charter
Charters
accepted
fixed
that
the
fact.
problem, right?
No, they
had
haven't
us on a
accepted the
different
bill
fiber.
for $950, but.
Yeah, I think
uh,
Jen Ramsey had reported it on that the last time she was in, and I believe the target date was end of August, beginning of September. But I'll go back and double check
Mhm.
from meeting minutes and emails.
I just think we had a lot of enthusiasm for the new director when she came on board in January, and we're hitting August now.
Yeah.
So I think we need to have some kind of plan laid out with dates,
Mhm.
and that's what I got.
Okay. Well, I think that a couple of things, it would be good to revisit the short-term, long-term disability. I mean, these are, like you said, a little bit smaller items, but it might be good for other board members to get up to speed on that. I don't know whether or not we can put that on an agenda for an upcoming meeting, Ed, to have, who would be a logical person to come and speak to that?
Well, again, what we did, if I remember right, it was Jim, he brought some information because he converted his company, I believe, to a short-term disability. And what they did, and going by memory, is they covered the deductible for people up to, and I'm making up numbers, $1,500. And they saved money by doing that versus paying people when they got on disability. So we'd want to structure it differently, but he got
Right.
a price from the insurance company. So I think if we can get some type of insurance company or somebody familiar with that insurance to come in and help explain it to us more, I think that would be, and I don't know if we have anybody as town residents that deal in that could do that. I mean, I don't want them to sell us a plan per se. I want them to be
Right.
able to come in and generally be unbiased about it.
Right. And would have to have, offer it to, a number of people. We can't sort of earmark
Right.
that business.
And I'll go back and take a look at the numbers, because I think actually the last time we had looked at it, if you choose to enter into a plan, we may, I'm going to use the collective we, choose to enter in just for a certain section of the employee body, because my memory is that I think the costs were basically driven by a small segment of the employees.
Mm-hmm.
And I know one of the other issues, and I think Vicky brought it up, was that, if we can budget a number, it's a lot easier to budget a number than, everybody
Right.
goes out and they get,
Up and
26
down.
weeks or whatever number of weeks, then they come back for a week and get another 26 weeks. And we've had, I think, 1 or 2 people do that over the course of years, not necessarily unwarranted,
Okay.
but it's just your costs can get blown out of the water and your department has to cover it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd rather see a $10,000 line item there every year that we can count on rather than,
Yeah.
30,000 one year, none the next.
Has this been addressed by PQB, do you know?
No, it has not.
Okay.
But it's one of the things that I can actually send them as a reminder as they're looking through that whole rules and regulations that we would like to take a look at
Mm-hmm.
and possibly address that particular section.
Mm-hmm. All right, what we'll do then is we'll sort of wrap these up into a agenda item for when there's a full board. I know that you had mentioned you won't be at the next meeting.
Right.
I think that there won't be a full board until the beginning of September, but I think that would be a good thing to do and to really kind of look at it and decide what we're going to try to move. I agree, emergency planning is, economic development, those things are really important. But I think that if we talk about them in a context with a full board, I think that'd be a good idea, because there is some movement. I think the Greenway, we had a presentation. I think it was going to be, there was potentially a new, the governor was going to be signing something potentially, or they were looking into whether or not funds could be used for the Greenway.
Yeah, there is a,
I think
No,
Lindsay
no,
Sabato said
no,
sponsored something, right?
there is a proposal for a bill in the legislature that probably won't get taken up until the fall.
Okay.
There was 800 or 880,000.
No, that was different. That was the bond bill. That
The what bill?
has the bond bill, which has been approved.
Mhm.
But, it would have to be requested, and then the governor would actually have to authorize the release of that money.
Okay, so before we stop that conversation, if it's there and it has to be requested, do we want to talk about requesting it? Because if we want to go ahead with the Greenway, I believe that could be used for design and work also, if I'm remembering correctly.
I don't know if it can be used for design. My memory of the actual wording, I would interpret it as construction, but
I remember we had a difference, and then Charlie was up here too, so I'm not 100% sure, but if it's available, let's find out if we can use it for design. And if it's just for construction, that means we have to find funding for design somewhere, so we don't lose that for construction. But if we can definitively say what it's for.
Didn't we say at some point that some of the CPC funds might be able to be used for design work?
They were talking about changing it, right, Virginia, so that,
it's acquisition that they're actually looking at changing.
acquisition,
Currently, we
Of
cannot
land,
use,
yeah.
we cannot use CPC funds to acquire this parcel because of the rail banking
Yeah.
piece that's in there.
But for design work, it's not?
Yeah, my Virginia can speak better to the design portion of that. But my understanding is yes.
I really don't know. Virginia Ahart, Chair of CPA, or CPC, whatever you want to call it. We were taking it one step at a time. And then we hit that point where nothing was going on, and then we were informed that our funds could not be used to purchase it, or because you aren't purchasing it, you're getting a 99-year lease. And now, among others, Lindsay Sabadosa is one of the ones that is sponsoring to allow us to fund. If I remember right, the grant
I guess we
Okay.
need to clarify that.
Yeah, do you want me to reach out to Lindsay Sabados and see if that fund can be used for design?
I can actually reach out
Okay.
to,
Yeah,
Okay,
somebody
okay.
might know, but it seems to me that the grant was given for the design. And Community Preservation thought they could help pay for it, but then we were told no.
Right. All right, thanks, Virginia.
Do you mind if I add something?
Sure.
Not to this particular one, but as we're going over this, and I think I said before, and it's as much my fault as anybody's, but I don't think we've been good at prioritizing these things and clicking them off and getting it done. We seem to rotate them around and say, here it is again. So maybe prioritizing when we're all together and saying, we're working on this till it's done, that still is done, that still
Yeah.
is done.
Yeah.
That
I
make
think
sense?
just like priority 1, 2, 3, whatever,
Yeah.
and have some, and that's why I'd asked in the past for like pending items, because it felt like we were addressing things, and then a couple of meetings later, it's like, wait a minute, what happened about that traffic study? So I think sometimes things just move slow in municipal government is what I've found.
Plus we get caught up every week, there's more and more and more.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
I was going to suggest prioritizing too, and I think some of these things, as John has mentioned, are good things to be on the agenda as new business and action items, but I think some of the other ones are much bigger, that are really much more visionary and long-term planning, whether,
Yep.
whether it be the Greenway or economic development or affordable housing. And so I think if we could set our sights on 3 or 4 of those things
Right.
as the real, here's what we're working towards over the next 2 or
Right.
3 years. And then, like I kind of insinuated last week, is to go back then and say, okay, if these are some of our priorities, what do we have to
Thank
have
you.
in place in order to make some of this happen? And that may mean to
Right.
really focus then the various committees that are working on different bylaws related to those particular subjects, so that,
Mhm.
we're sure that we've got all our ducks in a row on those, should something come to pass, so.
Yep, I agree. I think there's just different levels. I mean, if you say economic development, that might mean
Yeah.
municipal light and sewer and this or that.
Yeah.
So all of these are good suggestions and things that you're right, that we have mentioned or been working on at one level or another. So, did we find out, by the way, speaking of ECAT, did we actually hear back from Charter?
no, we have not.
Okay. All right, thanks, John. Select Board approval of Dave Wickles Trucking for 3-year contract for transfer station proposal for solid waste and recycling services approved by the Board of Health on 7/16/19. So that was a lot of documents.
Yes, and it's a lot of documents because basically Randall, the highway superintendent, actually followed the process under the state contract for FAC 86, so I included that in here. He reached out to 3 of the companies who were on the state contract. Two responded. When he did the comparison, Dave Wickles was the less expensive of the 2. This is a combined responsibility of the Board of Health and the Board of Selectmen, so the Board of Health took it up at their meeting on July 16th and approved it, so now it needs the last portion to be approved by the Select Board. And it would be for a 3-year contract.
Looking for a motion?
I'm looking for a motion, yep.
Okay, I looked at the rates and I'm familiar from where I work, and these are very good rates, so I'll make a motion that we accept Dave Wickles' bid.
And I second that.
Is there any further discussion? I have a question. So does this, do you suppose, mean any increase in fees for residents?
On this alone, I wouldn't necessarily say so, but I think from just what I'm looking at, and the books haven't been closed out yet on fiscal year 19, that the revenues that we may have expected, we may not have received, so we may have to take a look at the fees again for whether it's fiscal year 20 or what have you. And the other thing to still keep an eye on is the uncertain market in recycling, where we were being paid for what we recycled rather than paying. And
Right.
now we're getting into actually having to pay by tonnage for that recycling. So that's actually a
That's too bad, yep.
total reverse. And there are some predictions that say that what we're going to pay to have dispose of or to have those things recycled is actually going to just keep climbing. And if that does occur, we're definitely going to
Yeah,
have to
it's too
take a look
bad.
at the fees that are charged. Yes.
Should be incentivized, that's too bad.
Absolutely. I agree.
Because I think since I've been in town, which has been, it's 30 years now, more than that, it just seems like there are more people that are hiring private trash hauling and recycling.
Correct.
Yeah.
So there are, therefore there are less people that are
Right.
buying the yearly passes to,
Right,
this transfer station.
less revenue for
Yeah.
this, I know.
But we might see, it's possible that we see some, depending on what those house pickups
Yeah,
do at trash, because I have started to see that those costs are,
Oh, they're going up astronomically.
right, so,
It's particularly one company, but.
yeah, is that going to, are people going to be willing to pay that for the convenience of
Come
picking it up at their house, or is it going to drive them to say, you know what, the transfer station's a mile or two down the road, I can, dispose of this, once a week and, possibly save some money, right?
I'm considering coming back for that reason.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, there's one company that seems to have been monopolizing and buying up all the small trash haulers in this area. And I happen to be with that particular company, and literally every quarter it goes up. It goes up by 10% every quarter. It hasn't stopped yet.
Is that the one out of Connecticut?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's,
Yep.
the
They're buying up all
places
the
I own in
smaller
Easthampton
guys so that they
bought out.
can't have any competition.
Yeah.
And then when they don't have competition, they jack your rate up. I signed up for them, and literally 1 month later they put my rate up. I'm like, wait a second, I just signed up for this.
Yeah.
good business opportunity for somebody.
Yeah.
Pick up
Yep.
their trash at their home and bring it to the dump.
Absolutely.
Transfer station. All right, so we have a motion, a second. Are all those in favor of the 3-year contract with Dave Wickles? Say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Let's see. Busing contract, thanks. Busing contract, MOA for emergency management services. So I had a conversation with Charlie because, he has, we already have an agreement with the church in the event that we need to use the church for emergency purposes. He also brought to us a memorandum of agreement for restaurant food establishments. And he had talked about that he really wanted to be able to establish something for transportation of people. And we signed a contract for busing with the school that was just signed in the spring. And that might have been an opportunity for us to have some kind of a amendment or rider or something that would include using them for transportation. We also wanted to investigate what we could do for transportation of people with disabilities. So he suggested that maybe we set up a meeting for involved parties to discuss that, which would be superintendent, Charlie, select board member. I'm happy to do that as a liaison to the Board of Health, to discuss with the busing company developing a memorandum of agreement for transportation, and also possibly, I don't know what other communities do, but to look into, we have a van out there in the parking lot. Would it be through the Franklin Regional Transit Authority? So anyway, I just wanted to see if people were in favor of moving forward with that and possibly having a meeting set up to discuss having a memorandum of agreement for transportation.
Yeah, I'm in support of it, but I think we need to be careful with the school bus company. Like, we didn't I think they put that out to bid, and there was only one company
Only one
that bid
bidder,
on it.
right?
So I don't know, is that we should be calling too hard a shot there.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean?
Well, we don't really have any options for busing at this point. I mean,
For this particular one? you
well,
mean? Or just in general?
remember that we put the bus contract was out for
Right.
bid, like within the last 6 months or so. We
Right.
put it out to bid and we got
Yep.
0 responses. And I think that was,
We got one.
We got,
we got one.
we got 1.5. One responded to just a segment of the busing, so one
Okay.
good one. But at the,
So, and then obviously the cost went up associated with that, so it's just one of these things where it's like, do we want to put too much? It doesn't seem like busing companies, it's profitable to bus our kids as it is right now, just given how spread out they are in multiple towns. I just don't know if we want to be putting multiple riders onto that to make it less appetizing for when we need to re-sign that in the future.
I see what you're
If that
saying.
makes sense.
Mhm.
I know,
Well-
Perhaps there's another way
Go ahead.
to solve this problem than to tax that one.
at the Hampshire Regional School Committee meeting where they awarded it, I was there, and the bus company was very positive about working with us on
Okay.
this. Yeah. And
guess
I
maybe
think it
I
would
was
actually give them more to tie that in too, rather than try to get a second party to do it. So I think if we go to this bus company and talk to them, I think it's a great idea. I mean, you may find out they're going to try to charge you too much, but they were willing to talk at the time.
Yeah, and my assumption, and I hate to use that word, but my assumption on this would probably be it would end up being its own
Yeah,
MOA rather
Right.
than an attachment to the school
Yeah,
one.
exactly.
right,
Yeah.
okay. And we're not talking about all the towns of the school district anyway,
No.
we're just talking about our
Yeah.
town.
It
So
would be-
Charlie had said maybe in September, but my feeling is September's going to be way too busy for all of them. I'm happy, Ed, if you'd like to reach out and get the ball rolling on that. Do you want me to do that, or?
I'm happy to do it.
I'm trying to help you.
I
Ed.
know
Can
you
you
are.
tell? Okay, thank you. And we'll discuss maybe who would be at that meeting, but I think it would be good to just at least meet and discuss what the possibilities could be for a memorandum of agreement, okay?
Sure.
Just out of curiosity, where are the buses located for our current company? Where do they spend the night? What town?
That's a very good question. Does anybody know?
What town do they live in?
That's a very good question. I don't know.
I'm not
Guess we'll
sure.
have to find out.
The ones that are in Easthampton on Ferry Street, is that Easthampton or is that ours? Right back past the old blown-out
Yeah, I
mills
don't-
in the back, there's
I'm not sure
I'm
that
not
that's
sure.
ours.
dozens.
I don't know that that's ours.
Yeah,
Yeah. And do we know if it's the same bus company? If it's the same bus company, they're probably all back there.
Yeah, I don't know. But I mean,
we'll find out and let everybody know. Yeah,
Question.
good question. Okay, speaking of transportation, the next item is the Franklin Regional Transit Authority Advisory Board member designee, Ed Gibson. So at one point, were you the,
No, I am on the
for all?
PVPC alternate member voted by the select board
Okay.
members of the towns.
Okay, so this is to appoint Ed Gibson as on the advisory board, a member designee for the Franklin Regional Transit. That's where we get about $30,000 a year for the senior van.
Correct. And I've had the designation since I've been here, and I believe the year before that, I believe Bob Markle was.
Okay.
So-
And this is an annual appointment?
Yes, runs by the fiscal year.
Okay. Would someone then like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
So-
Discussion?
I've got a question, though.
Mhm.
It says, "And one appointed designee is if desired." Do we need
We haven't done a designee in the last couple of years, so,
so you're able to make the meetings?
yeah.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the next is the Bylaws Advisory Committee makeup and charge. So this we discussed before, where the Bylaws Committee had requested an additional member. They were hoping Chris Fowles would be able to join them. They have a pretty large task to continue to review bylaws. There was discussion about making the town clerk a standing member of the committee. That would free up an additional position on the committee. So the Bylaws Committee we sent it back to them. They did make the town clerk a standing member, and they would like us to appoint Chris Fowles as a liaison to the Bylaws Advisory Committee. Any comments or questions about that?
I mean, they want somebody from the select board, and we all want Chris on it, so,
Yeah,
okay.
And I filled
Sounds
out my
good.
paperwork for Ed.
yep,
Yep.
and she's already submitted the
And
paperwork. yeah.
the other portion of this is to update the actual charge to
Right,
the committee, and what I did was, I actually went back and got what Beckett had written up for their charge, responsibilities, and membership, which is in the left side of your packets. And that is one that was done while I was there. There's another one that is actually a draft for Affordable Housing Committee, which, and I don't know if Bob or someone else since him has done this one up as a draft, but they had actually used my template, and in that one, you can actually see where, shall we say, different solutions or choices were actually put in the sections of A, B, and C, and the select board could pick one of those, or they could say, well, can we do this instead, type of thing. So you can take a look at, some of those options, and you can take a look at a template of how we probably should be going about setting up committees when we do them.
right.
Yeah.
And also, there were questions about whether it was a standing committee or an ad hoc
Ad hoc
committee.
too.
Yeah, there
And
was
then
a
that could-
reference in paperwork in the past that referred to it as either, and both,
Both, right.
right?
Yeah.
Well, hopefully that gets clarified somewhere along the way.
But we should actually, along with, if you're going to appoint Chris, we should actually nail this down in the next couple
All
of
right,
meetings.
Chris, that's
to
your
be honest
first
with you.
charge. Chris, should you choose to accept it?
So do you want a motion? Do we need a motion to appoint her, Ed?
I think we do.
Yeah.
Well, if you're going to appoint her, yeah, you'd need a motion.
Yeah.
I will make a motion, we appoint Chris to the Bylaw Advisory Committee representing the Board of Select People. Select Board.
I still second that.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye?
Aye. Thank you, Chris, for doing that. Any other necessary?
And the other thing I would probably recommend you do with that is, even though you haven't done the charges yet, instead of doing what was the standard of, in that motion of until completed, because this, I think you're going to set this up to go on, I would probably suggest you make that a 3-year appointment to June 30th, 2022, but that's just a suggestion.
Would you like to revise your motion? 2022?
How about if I just make a motion that we have the term for 3 years, ending
Okay.
June 30th, 2022?
Yep.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any other necessary business that cannot wait until the August 6th regular Select Board meeting?
Just one thing, not that it can't wait, but it'll be passed. Tomorrow there's a concert in Conant
Great.
Park again,
Great,
and Lindsay LaBelle is playing. Haven't heard her, but
wonderful,
a couple I've been to have been very good, so
great.
if you can make it.
Last one was very well attended.
It was, yes.
Great. Tomorrow night at Conant Park. Did that roof ever get done on the pavilion?
No, they were going to start on the chimney this past Saturday, but with the heat, they
Yeah, they-
put it off. So we're tentatively still trying to get it done for, by the beginning of August.
Okay.
I'm waiting for a reschedule.
Okay, and August 6th, you said that you weren't able to be at the next meeting, right? But
Right.
both of you will be?
Yeah,
Okay.
August 6th.
You'll be at August 6th. Okay, and I think Francine will be back, so that's good. One thing that I was hoping at an upcoming meeting, it doesn't have to be the next one, but one of the upcoming ones is, there were a number of articles in the warrant that had to do with IT equipment, both for the police department and for the town hall here, in keeping with sort of moving and focusing on emergency planning and communications. If we could just get an update on some IT things. I know that it's been suggested that we should be looking, or Capital should be looking at new phone systems in town, in the building here. But if we could just sort of get an update on what's happening with some of those things, that would be helpful.
Sure. And one of the things with the IT is one of the pieces of equipment that is going to be changed because it was at the end of its useful life, is the switch that was down there, and that's going to be upgraded so that if we choose to do so, we can actually, we'll be able, that switch will be compatible with voice over IP. So that will give us the opportunity, if we want to go via voice over IP, which has a tremendously less cost of entrance than replacing, or I shouldn't even say replacing, I should say going to a phone system that requires equipment be in the building. Yeah, and so much of a less of an upfront cost.
Great, well, I'd like to sort of get an update on that. I think that's,
And added to that, if I can, I don't have any clue in terms of like our overall IT maintenance contract or what we do kind of across departments, and how do we keep up to date with, malware and
right.
all sorts of other things. I mean, what's that? So I'd just like an update on the status of that.
Actually, I would say
Yeah.
you are totally current on what you just stated,
Yeah.
because we do not have an IT maintenance
Well, there we
contract.
go.
Right, and we have a volunteer who's our main IT person, and in the beginning, not too long ago, we talked about having a committee put together, and I think we're going to involve the IT person from Hampshire Regional, Kim Florick, and there weren't a lot of volunteers, so that would be another thing to kind of
maybe
stay
put
on
on
top of and current with.
Yeah. I mean, volunteers are great. I mean,
Right.
totally appreciate their
Right,
ability and willingness to do that. But I
Right.
think, for all the needs that we have in the various departments, I think
right.
IT is always a touchy situation.
Yeah.
And if the server goes down, it's like, well, whose server and where is it and how do we fix it? It's not that simple sometimes, so,
Yeah, I think we have to be comprehensive and safe.
yeah.
Okay, so there are no PCFs or licenses and permits, so the warrants, it looks like Francine signed off on most of these warrants.
Yeah, I signed warrants before the meeting.
Oh, good, you want to read them off then?
Okay.
Would you
Step
please?
into that one? Okay, W19-51A for $750. It's a vendor payable warrant in addition. PD 19-52 for $67,973.27. It's a payroll deduction warrant. PD 19-52A for $183,149.37. Payroll deduction warrant, it's an addition. W19-55 for $149,851.90. It's a vendor payable warrant. W20-3 for $88,900.71, vendor payable warrant. And W20-3A for $46,185.75, vendor payable warrant. It's addition for a fire admin vehicle.
Great. Do we need a motion to approve those, or they're already been
Just one
signed
quick
off on,
question.
right?
They're all
Okay,
signed, yeah.
go ahead.
Just check the amount on one, on PD 1952. I have on the hard copy, 67,764.71. Is that right? That's not what was on the agenda item.
Which one?
PD 1952, second one you read, I think.
Let's see.
On the agenda item, it says 67,973.
The total should be 67,764.71.
it's
So actually, that's wrong in the agenda,
just
but
wrong on the agenda then?
Yep.
Okay.
67,764.71. Thank you very much for catching that.
Yeah, I transposed that with the number above it.
Okay. Oh, right, I
Oh,
see
yeah,
that.
I see that, now. Yeah, okay.
So any questions on that?
Yeah, that's right.
I noticed one of the things on one of the payouts was to O'Reilly First Call. Are you familiar with that, Ed? Or is anybody? Just curious.
I
what-
didn't hear you reading.
I was just wondering, one of the items on the actual warrant was O'Reilly First Call. Just wondering if you knew what that was offhand. It's actually on warrant 19-55.
It's about 52.
That's O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Auto parts, right?
It is,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, we've got a number of departments that get their auto parts
Okay,
there.
good.
They're open.
Oh, good. I was just hoping too that we were supporting local businesses too.
Yep.
Great. Okay, so we have one set of minutes to approve. They are July 15th, regular session. Everybody have a chance to look at them? This was the joint meeting with the Finance Committee? With
Yes.
year-end transfers.
So I'll make a motion, we accept as written.
Would someone like to second that?
Yeah, I'll second that, I think.
I just have one thing I would think would be worth adding. Under signatures, where it says personnel change forms PCF, there was a discussion about Angela Baldock, Town Clerk, Office Assistant Town Clerk, resignation, and then the Assessor Office. I think it would be worth adding that the Select Board discussed the advantages and disadvantages of combining an administrative assistant's positions to create number one benefited position. Is that all right?
Can you read that to me again, please?
The Select Board discussed the advantages and disadvantages of combining administrative assistant positions to create one benefited position. Because that was an addition to what we discussed with the hire of the administrative assistant and the resignation of another one in a different department.
So I will amend my motion to add that wording.
Second.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Chris gave the
Or
second.
Chris.
Yeah, yeah, I'll second it, that's fine.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We have a number of pending items, and some of them have been discussed along the way. Does anybody have any questions or updates that they'd like to provide to the pending items?
Do
No.
we need to have the dog complaint on there anymore?
Has that been resolved?
Oh, probably until,
Till they pay the
The-
registration?
yeah, until they either get, how would you put it? Confiscated or court. I would probably say leave that one on there, would be
Okay,
my suggestion.
okay. So I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting that I did receive feedback from department heads on Ed Gibson's evaluation, and what I'm going to do is, by the end of this week, I'm going to actually send them to all the Select Board members, and then within maybe 2 weeks' time, if people can take those into consideration, indicate your own feedback on the evaluation form, and then send them to me. I will combine everybody's score, and then we'll set a date for open public meeting, review of the town administrator's evaluation, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, that's the plan. So I'll send them out, and I'll give a kind of a deadline date, plenty of time, and then we'll just take it from there, okay? But that's the plan going forward. And the open space and recreation plan is just one thing that I just, PVPC should be having, like, starting to have some meetings, if we need it by the end of the year. So I'm hoping that they're on that.
They should be. And
Okay.
I'll have to go back and look. I think I just got an update from them about a week ago.
Okay, and the only other thing I wanted to just remember is the annual report. You had said that that would be no problem getting it off to the printers, and are we on track with that?
Yes, and actually, I've got that on the next agenda for an update
Okay, good.
for the 6th.
Any other pending items or questions?
Just a question on the traffic study on Route 10, is
Mhm.
what else has to happen with that? The study's been done, so now
Right.
what?
And there was a recommendation made for the speed limit.
Right.
For 35 miles an
Yeah.
hour, yeah.
But that's up to the state to put up those?
They were sending the local District 2 sends the recommendation to the state in Boston, and then they make the final determination, and at this point, we're just waiting to hear back from that, yeah. Yeah, it was 40, we had actually requested 30, but after they did the study, their recommendation was 35 in that area of Gun Road.
Okay. Anything else? All right, so we have the updated coming dates we already talked about. Open time for the public. Would anybody like to speak about anything? No? All right. At this time, then, we'll go into executive session, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. 71 Gilbert Road zoning enforcement. I need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
I need a roll call vote.
Fowles eye?
Roland, aye.
Martin, aye.
Roden, aye. All right, we'll just take a couple-minute break.
You want to make a note, we're not going back into.
Oh, we're not,
open-
thank you. We're not going back into open session after. Thank you, Ryan.